What is up, you radical human? Today in the studio, I had Crew Mahoney. He might be the most hated man on TikTok right now, but he's definitely the healthiest 24-year-old in the world. This is a 24-year-old that has never drank a drop of alcohol, hasn't had a cheap meal in almost 10 years, has ran a mile every single day for over 2,500 days. That's 7 years of running. He lifts, he trains, he's got a really wise beyond his years mindset, and we talk about managing anxiety, stepping into your truth, even dating. We talk about the whole gamut of the human experience, and it's just really refreshing to see somebody so young with so much wisdom and life experience, and I know you're going to love this episode. Let's get into it with Crew Mahoney. Crew Mahoney, the most hated man on TikTok right now. Dude, when you live in your truth, you will trigger a lot of people, and you've inspired many and triggered equal amounts, if not more, especially on the old platform of TikTok. What's it like to just stand in that fire of polarity and receive a lot of love and also a lot of hate?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I've been telling the people that I just hang out with really consistently, I go, yeah, if you just don't go on the app, real life doesn't actually change. Yeah, which is so funny. I mean, I go to the gym, still talk to all the great people, have great conversations. If I go on TikTok, oh my God, the world hates me. Mm-hmm. And then I go, okay, well, the people that are hating me right now, quote unquote, because they don't actually know me, but they hate me, they would have anyways. Yeah. Eventually. Yeah. So it's all good. You know, I just, I put my energy in places where it actually belongs. And I think if you're putting ideas out there, if you're putting anything out there and it's truthful and it's honest, the emotional management, that's the biggest responsibility, I think, really of anybody. You know, because you have yourself, you have what you can control, and then you have what's outside of that. And what's outside of that is typically always trying to go against what you want to happen. And this is why, I mean, lifestyle is a freaking massive thing. The ice bath, the running, all the discipline-based stuff. It's not just to make, you know, alpha freaking reels on Instagram and shit. It's just, if I can go through a difficult thing and I can stay, this art of staying is what makes you resilient to the variability of all the things outside of you. Yeah, this external, internal locus of control thing, I think, is one of the biggest red pills that somebody can take. It's just like, I don't really control out there, even in a certain sense. Like if I create content, even if it's misunderstood or the intention doesn't land the way that I hoped, once it's out in the world, it's going to take on a life of its own. All I can control really is how I respond to the reactions or how I respond. We were joking this morning, my alarm went off and I get up early too, and there's thunder and lightning, it's raining. I knew we had this pod, and I was like, I know Crew's still out there. I know he's in the cold plunge right now as the lightning's going off. I know he's getting his mile as it's raining. You can't control the weather. It would be beautiful if the birds were chirping and the sun was out, but you know, that's the nature of life. But you can control what you can control, and that's your actions, and that's your commitment, and that's your consistency. And you've been hella consistent. So talk to me about that, because really what got you on this trajectory is the 7-ish years of running a mile every single day, right? What is it, 2,500-ish days right now? Yeah, 2541 was today. 2541. Yeah. I mean, look, it started kind of in a cliche way, I guess, right? I started running because I hated to run. But back then, you know, so I was 17 at the time when I started the running streak. I was going to do it for about a month, right? And then I ran every day for a month. And then I looked back on that month and I said, well, what am I going to do? Walk back on this? I mean, you can't become better and then not continue becoming better. So for me, it was always, I never wanted my past self to be better than the present self. And I took this on because I thought, well, if I am more consistent at what I don't like to do than most people are, even with the things they do like to do, there's got to be something to that. Because, you know, in middle school, early high school, I'd go to the gym and I would lift. And, you know, it's just kind of the bodybuilding style. You just go lift weights. And then I would go, I feel like I'm cheating myself on something, because you know, there are people out there just getting after it. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't have to be the 100-mile runs and all those kinds of things. But I wasn't leaving the gym going, man, I'm working right now. Yeah. And so I think a lot of these ideas kind of mixed together in my mind and turned into, okay, I'm going to run every single day, no matter what. Because for myself growing up, You hear people say they do something every day. Almost everyone is lying.
Yeah.
Across the board. And that was so frustrating because I think everybody wants the hero that does the thing no matter what. Mm-hmm. Right? And a lot of people say, oh, my parents or my teacher or my coach or some sort of figure in their life, that's my hero. And then when they explain why, it's because they showed up every single time the same, same personality. Always, they could always count on that, right? And so I figured that I would become that person for myself by being ridiculously consistent with this one thing. The one thing being pretty reasonable, running at least a mile every single day until it's the last thing you want to do, until it's pouring rain, until it's snowing, until you're depressed, until someone broke up with you, until you hate the world. Then a mile is a mountain.
Yeah.
Right. And facing that regardless, it's just a library of that happening literally thousands of times. You can't even communicate what comes from that. Right. You read all these books of someone's crazy journey, and each chapter is just this big benchmark thing that happened. And I'm going, that's bullshit. The chapter header is not the thing at all. Winning the 100-mile ultra marathon is not the thing at all. It's just every little moment before that day. The random day when you wake up and go, oh, I don't want to do this. And then what's happening when you're tying your shoes and still choosing to go out and do the run? That is the detail. That's what actually matters. And I think when somebody goes through that kind of journey, that's the pain, because you can't communicate what that moment actually consists of. And that's where the power really lies.
Yeah. And if you do anything over a long enough timeline, that's when it really becomes impressive. You're really building an undeniable stack of proof that you are the person that you say you are, that you are the person that you wanted to be inspired by, that you are the person that the present version of you would kick the shit out of the past version of you.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, man.
It's an evidence thing. So I say that confidence, self-respect, all of these characteristics that people want to have, they're evidence-based, because there's delusional confidence where people are just, oh, I'm the best. And there's no real reason for them to believe that. But if you can look back on thousands of days of saying, I agreed that I'm going to do something, and then I followed through on that, you would have no other choice but to respect yourself.
Yes.
And this is where I think feeling better about yourself becomes really accessible. And that's why I'm so excited about it. I mean, with my communities and coaching and just the content I put out, you can look at someone and say, if you just made a promise and kept it for 100 days, it would be impossible to feel worse about yourself.
Yeah.
It would be impossible to not feel better about yourself, because you literally have data.
Yeah. Well, how many people are constantly breaking little promises to themselves all the time?
Yeah.
Like Rumi had a quote, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. And we've got this instant gratification culture where somebody does something now for like one day and they're like, where's the results? I went to the gym for 1 week. Why am I not ripped yet? I did the one run. You've got to really stack these wins over a seriously long period of time. And also, in the essence of that gardening quote, like, you got to be pulling the weeds, you got to be doing the work. But so many people are wounding themselves every single day because they say, well, I'm going to start on Monday, and then Monday arrives and they don't do it, and then over a long enough timeline that turns into like a set of limiting beliefs that I am the kind of person that can't stick to anything. So you have to find that one thing you can really anchor to and can control it, and it's a game of momentum, right? Because I'm sure, like, as a 17-year-old, you're actually quite literally not fully developed yet, especially your brain. But you had an idea, and I think that idea has become something that is, so powerful and transformational because it begets the ability and the belief that you can choose to do anything now because you've got that evidence. And it doesn't even have anything to do necessarily with the physical. I'm sure you can apply that to relational, to business, to insert whatever, because you do have now that undeniable stack of proof.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm not a runner, because identity-wise, that is not really my sport of choice necessarily. But it represents something, right? And if you go into keeping any kind of promise as, oh, this is going to be a part of my toolkit for anything, that's where it becomes really, really powerful. And I mean, the dynamic you talked about where people get really stuck, it's a toxic relationship. I mean, we all know the people that are in a real relationship with another person, and the other person treats them like shit, and for some reason they stay, and you're going, what are you doing? What? And for someone looking from the outside, it's obvious. Well, get out of there. What are you doing? In that same sense, people have that kind of relationship with doing well, and then they reach that line that they're trying to pass, and then it throws them back down. Because what people really want to feel is a difference. If you feel bad, you just want to feel different, because you don't really know, oh, this would actually be what feeling good is like. If I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to eat 6 pizzas and throw my whole nutritional success away, and I'm going to feel different.
Yeah.
Something's going to change. People are really attracted to that. So it's a hard thing to break out of. But again, bringing it back down to, hey, you do something, you keep a promise for 30 days.
Yeah.
It's 30 days better, undeniably.
Undeniably. Yeah. Fuck your feelings, follow the plan.
Yeah.
I think one of the Hormozis said that.
Yeah. I take a slightly different perspective there. Understand the absolute crap out of your feelings and why they're there. And then they don't drive your behavior. That's the difference, because man, you could use a 100-mile run as a distraction.
Yes.
Or you could use a 100-mile run as something positive.
Yes.
The whole, I don't know, just this dynamic of the stay hard thing. I mean, I freaking love David Goggins. At the same time, it's kind of a screw the way you feel, get that out of there, and then go do something good. But then you don't understand why you're going to do something good.
Right.
You have to have a reason.
Right.
And I think that's super important for people to know.
Well, it can become destructive, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be disciplined in a world that wants you distracted with like endless cheap dopamine or food at the edge of your fingertips or just anything that wants to clamor your attention.
Yep.
You have to be disciplined. And then you get to this point where you have to be disciplined with your discipline. And that's where like Goggins, inspirational figure to many. And at the same time, the guy is clearly fighting some demons to the point where he's staying hard to the point where he's literally destroying his body in the process and not able to pivot. And there's something like aspirational and inspirational about that. But if you zoom out far enough too, you're also like, bro, it's okay. Like you don't need to do that anymore. You've proved it. Like it's okay. So you need to like have this holistic view of discipline, I think, maybe as well, which is, it's just, there's just levels to the game. But I think you can't even have that conversation until you've done the very basic, like figure out the thing that you're going to commit to for at least 30 days and do it every day. Not 27 days out of the 30. Like if you don't make it to the 30, start again, do that thing. And then let's start talking about that. But for most people, it's just like, man, that weakness culture, that softness, that instant gratification, and the disconnection from the feelings, because most people don't even understand why they feel a certain way because they're too bloody glued to the screen to even sit and have an emotional conversation with, what am I feeling firstly? What is this? Is it anxiety? Is it stress? Is it worry? Is it regret? Why am I feeling that? What's the story I'm telling myself about that? And then what am I doing with it? Am I eating it? Am I numbing it? Am I vaping it away, smoking it away, wanking it away? Instead of just sitting with it, because there's no such thing as a good and bad emotion. It's just information. Like now what do you want to do with that emotion? Yeah,
well, it's interesting that the discipline is becoming an issue for some people because it is so, I don't know, glamorized on social media.
Right.
I mean, I've run into that just in the ecosystem of my own mind because last thing I'm going to do is let my discipline get in the way of something that I want to do, want to have done, an opportunity, anything like that. And so even when it comes down to the specifics of my routines and just my lifestyle and maintaining my health, I mean, I used to meal prep a lot, and I would meal prep so far in advance that it was as if I was just cooking each meal, right? So I would cook for the next day's lunch after I ate lunch. Now I'd go, I could have just made this lunch right now. I've gone so far in preparing and trying to be on top of everything that I've just returned.
Yeah.
And so that's more of a funny example, but I do think people can get stuck in, exercise is good, running is good, drinking and doing drugs, that's bad. But I'm just going to go run and lift and do jujitsu, whatever it might be.
Right.
So I don't have to think about what's actually going on. And that's still garbage.
Yeah. And you see, I mean, you'll see so many I'm in the CrossFit space now. So I landed in Cookeville, Tennessee, where it's home of CrossFit Mayhem, which is the home of Rich Froning. So like you just kind of get suckered into that. And it's a wonderful community. And you see an awful lot of addictive tendencies gradually come into CrossFit and then start, with something that is healthy, because the dose makes the poison. And all of a sudden you've got, the 45-year-old mom of 2 doing 2 wads a day, living off caffeine and stress hormones. And it's like you took something that was good and you did too much of it. Yeah. I'm a huge sun maxer, love laying out in the sun, but I'm also aware that if I laid out in the sun every single day at UV 12 forever in the triple digit Austin heat, that'd probably get burned, and that's not good. So there is a balance point. And I think it's that glorifying discipline because it's really useful, but understanding there's a level of mastery above discipline, which I think is also having fun. Yeah. And I think what's not spoke about too much is that in this discipline pursuit, it's always these figures like Goggins where, yes, doing hard things is really important because it gives you control over the other things in your life to know that you're the kind of person that can do hard things. Yeah. But using discipline is like running uphill. And using something that is actually enjoyment for you is like running downhill. It gets you more miles per gallon on your discipline tank. So as much as, yes, discipline is amazing, you also want to be disciplined on things that actually bring you joy and fun. Yeah. So you're running further downhill and you're actually using the momentum of life. And that's why I'm a big fan of things like jiu-jitsu and stuff, because it's packaged into this whole thing of it's very physically challenging and you're getting all of the cardiovascular benefits. It's mentally stimulating. It's actually a very real world useful skill because God forbid you ever need to fight. Now you can. Mm-hmm. But it's also fun as shit to just fight people. So the motivation and the discipline to go isn't as heavy sometimes as the guy that's just like become addicted to the suffering, like the discipline of grinding uphill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it takes away the need to be creative, which I've faced this in so many ways. I mean, even speaking about content, social media. I made a video about this yesterday. Everybody wants to figure out their thing, and then they just rinse and repeat and do it over and over again. And that's kind of what I did. I thought, oh, well, I run every day. I'm just going to film a video of this every day. I'm going to say something new, and there's my work, is saying something new. But if visually it never changes, right? People are just going to get to the point where they go, oh yeah, here's this thing again.
Yeah.
And then what I'm putting out there is not evolving along with how I'm actually evolving, which is my personality, my ideas, what I'm actually up to, and so trying to get away from the formula mindset, I need to find a good landing place kind of mindset. And every day there's a new set of problems. There's a new responsibility to be creative. You get into this problem a lot with people in the business world. Oh, I hit this much money in sales this month. Same thing next month. And then it starts to disappear and they go, wait, why is it not working? And then it's scary because you never want the responsibility. This is why people are just so in love with the idea of, oh, I got this job and I'm secure, I'm safe, and then the entrepreneur is, oh my God, you have to wake up every day and I have all this responsibility and I'm putting out fires and this success I'm looking for is fleeting. That's kind of the best though, because when you have more responsibility, there's more meaning behind it. There's more purpose. So yeah, it's a tough thing to become really disciplined, but then manage not going too far with it to where you can't get out of it.
100%, man.
And I think that's what a lot of people think of me, because I'm not putting out enough of what I'm actually up to, other 23 hours of my day other than the ice bath and run. And honestly, that's on me.
Yeah. It's so well said. I think it's a tension. It's a tension, a dichotomy that needs to be managed. And it's a tricky one, because there's so much value in these like discipline messages and this go harder and, nobody cares, work harder and fuck your feelings, follow the plan and don't be a little bitch. Because the truth be told, like most people do need that, because most people are sitting on their ass, and just like picking the bum and not doing anything with their life. But then for these select few like high performers that break through, it's almost like an intention around the fuel. And I'm curious how you've evolved here, because I'm making assumptions and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you started this, I think it stemmed from an attempt to control anxiety. You had a bad battle with anxiety. And I think the reason many people do what they do is like the fuel of running away from something painful. Yeah. So you found that running every day gave you a bit more control over this like sense of anxiety, and then you could kind of alchemize it into it. Yeah. But if you're constantly using things that are painful as the fuel to motivate you into action, it'll get you going. It's really fast. It burns really quickly, but it's toxic over the long term. So how do you switch your fuel from constantly using away from motivation of things that are painful to towards motivation of like, I'm doing this now because it's purpose driven, it's inspirational. Yeah. Maybe it's even a bit of fun. Has that been kind of your journey with the fuel of doing what you do?
It's interesting because I think as you continue going, the purpose evolves by itself. Yeah. You know, because through the experience, as long as you're thinking about it reasonably, you go, oh, wow, I can really feel growth outside of the actual thing that I'm doing. What is that? You know, and you start to dive into what does it really mean to keep a promise, right? And then you think of, well, if I was thinking of myself as if I were another person, I would be stoked to know somebody that's as consistent, you know, and then you have ideas that you eventually want to share because it has improved your life. And then there's a responsibility that comes along with it. And then you go, well, I feel like most people don't really live this way. Wouldn't it be a disservice to not talk about it? And then you get into building confidence through knowing how to communicate your ideas. And then there's just this whole spectrum of being a more full individual. And I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to do that. Most people don't have conversations. Yeah. At all. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just little small talk stuff here and there. Oh yeah, here's the deadline for this. And no one really gets to sit down, even stare at the blank wall and wonder, oh, what do I think? Never mind, learn to communicate that well. Just advertise the authentic self, which is a freaking hard thing to do. You know what I mean? Talking is not so easy when you've got a lot to say and you don't know how to do it. Yeah. And that's always the skill. I'm huge on just the practicing speaking, writing, all of those kinds of things, because it is a superpower when it comes to building confidence.
Agreed. Yeah, talking is interesting. Talking, I think it's thinking out loud. And if you haven't done thinking in silence, or to your more recent point, you said your thoughts are going to have a much harder time consuming you from a piece of paper than if they're just regurgitating in your mind, because that's what most people are doing, right? They haven't even had a conversation with themselves, let alone a conversation externally. Yeah. And I think, you know, in the essence of podcasting, there's this really funny idea, but I think it's a valuable one, where you, even if you're never going to publish this thing in the world, sit down with a couple of your homies once a week, put a phone on the table to hit record and say, for an hour, we're going to do a pretend podcast. Yeah. And everything, no distractions, like phone-free dinners, like just like we're going to have a conversation and we're going to force ourselves to think out loud. Man, and it's amazing what that will do.
The no phone dinner is money. Right? That is, I'm so heavy on that idea, because it's just really simple. And I mean, it's very different experience from having your friends at the dinner table, and someone might be thinking, oh, well, I just eat dinner alone. Well, exactly. Plenty of time to sit there and think. And if that feels stressful, and if that's a scary thing, I mean, I won't say a problem, but there's your work cut out for you. Yes. Right. That is exactly what you're trying to make not a bad experience, is sitting by yourself, because it shouldn't be. No. And God, I mean, I've had plenty of years of my life where that was very scary. Yeah. Right? Because you don't know where that's going to go. You feel like you don't have the control. And then you get into, oh, I hope I eat well tomorrow, or I hope I go to the gym tomorrow. You know, I'll hear those kinds of things and go, what do you mean? That's you. Yeah. You shouldn't be afraid of you. That's the one thing you can control. Right? But yeah, I mean, it's interesting how it doesn't seem that simple when you are in that.
Well, that part of most people, to use a gym analogy, is very atrophied. It's very weak because it's never had any training. Yeah. So like if you apply like a bro science-y idea to this, like when you go into the gym for the first time, you are exponentially weaker than 2 years later and 4 years later and 10 years later. You know, when you first run through a plateau, like you bench 225 for the first time, you feel like Superman. And then 6 months later, if you bench 225, you're like, okay, well, now we're trying to move up. So it's a similar kind of thing. If you don't actually spend any time alone with your thoughts and yourself, then that part of you is weak. But just like going into the gym and doing the reps gets it stronger, the reps here may be a little less sexy because it's not as quantifiable, I guess, because you can't measure 225. but the presence and quality of your own peace of mind or the control on your anxiety, even though it's not an obvious metric, like all it requires is the same kind of philosophy. It's the time and it's the reps. And the no phone dinner is a perfect time to do that. 10 minutes of sitting outside in the morning and just asking yourself, what's present right now? Or I think you said also that like sitting outside in the sun every day has solved most of my problems. Yeah. Why? Because it's distraction-free time to get some reps of being with you.
Yeah, the quantifiable nature is what draws people to achieving anything or working towards anything. And this is something I've been trying to communicate for a while, because you can't quantify, oh, I feel better about myself. And that's why nobody really tries to achieve it, because how are you going to, brag about it?
Right.
right? How are you going to show, oh yeah, my discipline account went up 100 points. There's not that. It's just a part of who you are.
Yes.
Right. And it's not so obvious. And I think people know that deep down, but it's very hard to work towards something that you can't see, you can't count. I mean, if you feel healthy right now, try and embody what it feels like to be sick. How? You can't do that because you remember being sick. You kind of know what it was like, but you can't feel that. And that's how somebody feels when they see, Goggins on their Instagram. They're going, I can't even, and they say it that way, I can't, right? Not I don't want to. I can't run. I can't eat right for 30 days.
Yeah.
I can't. And that's what they truly believe, right? And it always takes an action, right? But people think that they need to feel like David Goggins to then act like David Goggins.
Yeah.
We don't need to use him as the example of everything discipline-wise, but, the feeling will never come first. The action comes first, and then a little bit of the confidence, a little bit of the self-respect. And then that little bit of confidence and self-respect then drives the next behavior. And it just increases on each side. There's a little bit more behavior, a little bit more feeling better about yourself. And that's how it rises. But people are waiting to go, I need to feel like the runner to go for the jog.
Yeah.
You'll never, ever feel like what you're shooting for.
Yeah.
Because you're shooting for something outside of yourself.
Yeah. And it doesn't exist yet. It kind of reminds me of this idea that like in a similar vein, many people are trying to feel motivated to go and do the thing, when actually motivation comes from doing the thing.
Yeah.
So like motivation almost never precedes action, but it comes after the fact. Like when you actually do the hard thing, especially when you don't want to do it, is when you actually come back and you're inherently more motivated because you've got some momentum. But yeah, just trying to sit there and say like, well, one day if I watch enough podcasts, I'll feel motivated to do it, is the very long way around of just doing the thing. And knowing that like the only path to feeling that way one day is by 2,500 days plus of doing the thing, 10 years of doing the thing, 2 decades of doing the thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's so hard for people to grasp that, because we've been, I don't want to say programmed, but we'll say it, programmed to try and find the answers in something like Instagram or a TikTok video. And then you go, oh, this guy's got it. Right, what he said there, now we got it figured out. Now I'm going to be able to make the choice to do the thing. And then you can wake up the next day and run, and then the next day after that, you're going to not want to.
Yeah.
And then what about the video? The motivation always wears off.
Always.
The most inspired I've ever been, like you're saying, is just from my own version of doing all of the things.
That's right.
And it's very simple. It's just super difficult to do. To do what you don't want to do is not actually a, oh yeah, did it anyways video on social media. It's a, oh wow, everything about my body and my mind does not want to do this thing. How can I step into doing this? And that's the skill of the ice bath. Any form of hard exercise, you're at the start line every time. And it's a matter of, how do I step into this? How do I stay? And I mean, you have a million little micro moments where you're working through that. That for me really is the ice bath every morning.
100%, dude.
I hate it.
Yeah, same.
It's so rough. And, there's a big difference between the person that just gets in And from the outside perspective is just totally fine, because no one is totally fine in the ice bath. But there's a big difference between them and the person that kind of dips their foot in and feels what it's going to be like and says, no, never, absolutely not. And they close that door for good. And you go, oh, that person's trapped by something. Yeah. You know, and you don't have to do ice baths, but that moment, you know that, oh, there was a reason you were trying to get in there, and you dipped your toe and you close the door and you'll never go back. That's a rough place to conclude.
Yeah, and you know, how you do one thing is how you do most things, I would say. And that inability to want to do something but follow through, because that voice comes in again that says, you can't do this. It's too cold. Like, it's cliche, but it is true. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. Those people get to be self-righteous. They get to prove themselves right by saying, I can't do it. So they never do it. And there's a strange sense of safety in that too. A strange sense of safety in one way, and then they live in the hell of that reality of being trapped by it. It's such an interesting little problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you brought up the jiu-jitsu thing. I was telling you earlier, yesterday was my first time back after 2.5 months from my injury. And, I mean, on the way there, I'm nervous and everything, and I'm going, I mean, do I really need to know how to fight? I mean, you know, I'm just working through all these ideas. Of course, knowing myself well enough and knowing what I'm going to conclude, I went and I'm doing the thing. And it's just, that is a stressful one for me for whatever reason. But there I was trying to rationalize, I mean, do I really need to do this? I don't know if this even makes sense. I mean, it's jiu-jitsu. Who cares? I got plenty of other things going on. And then I know, oh, I definitely have to get back into this. I want to know how to do this. It's just the work. It's just that feeling. But it's interesting because, you know, the whole discipline equals freedom thing. I dive into that idea a lot because I think it's really important to know that every freedom has a corresponding discipline. So people will look at my routines and my lifestyle and they think that that is a real discipline, right? And that comes with its freedoms. The opposing freedom is, well, there's so many people that don't have to wake up and do an ice bath or go run. They can eat whatever the heck they want. They don't have to work out. I mean, there actually is a freedom to that. Unfortunately, the discipline that goes along with those freedoms is a existential wondering of what would it be like if I was the best version of myself. Right. And then my discipline sucks ass every single time. But I actually know the answer to that question for myself. I don't have the existential pain. I have the practical pain. I think it's better. Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't have the control group of not living that way to compare that to. But living in the existential wonder, I feel like, is actual hell.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, you know, it's a torturous open loop. The what if. What could I have been? What would have happened if I'd have spoke my truth at that time? What if I'd have told that girl I loved her? What if I'd have taken that trip? What if I'd have went all in on that thing? It's, again, we'll never know. And the human experience is very interesting in the sense that it's subjective anyway. So your perception of that is different to mine, is different to somebody else's anyway. But there is something that's quite human within us that strives for that evolution, for that sense of becoming all that they could be if they were to be that version of themselves. And if we get to the end, hopefully that's a nice, happy, healthy, and long life. But if we get to the end, I think, and this is actually bore out in some of the work of the 5 regrets of the dying. It's really cool stuff to read from an end-of-life palliative care nurse. But the top 5 regrets of the dying is there's always something like that in it, that I just never did all that I could have done. I just didn't do that. I let my fears win. I let my stories define me. I let my past take over my future. And that is to a T, almost everybody, because again, it is fundamental to the human condition. That tug of war that you're describing is one that most people are losing.
Yeah, and I would imagine at the end of your life, maybe the fear that comes along with that, just the overwhelm in whatever sense. I'd imagine you would look back on not doing the thing that you could have, or not being the best version of yourself, as ridiculous. Yeah. You'd go,
why didn't I do that?
What? Are we for real? Because, and I don't know. I think the future self is something that not a lot of people can actually conceptualize, because so much of my decision making is based on that, because everybody has a version of themselves they can look back on. Everybody has the present, everybody has the future. Right now, you are your past self's future self. So you can use that. You can go, am I angry? Am I gratified? What is my actual feeling based on how I was 5 years ago? And if it's great, hell yeah. I mean, that's genuinely how I feel. Yep. I look very fondly on my past self. But I don't think a lot of people get to experience that. It's usually, I was such an idiot. Mm-hmm. I should have never done that. I'm so stupid. I ruined my life. Now look at me. And what people miss out on is that there will be a 5 years from now future self that will look back on right now with the same exact microscope. You literally have the opportunity in this moment to create a good version of looking back, mm-hmm. even though it's the present. And it's a little abstract. It's a little bit out there, but at the same time, it's very real when you look at that past self.
Absolutely, man.
And this is such a helpful thing for people to really recognize, because right now never really feels that important. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's just one day. It was just one bad meal. It's just one insert whatever microscopic little step gets you to an outcome, good or bad. And if you don't realize how important today's eating or today's workout or today's reflecting on your ideas is, then that's just going to build 100 times over, 1,000 times over. And now you have a huge outcome or version of, oh, my life sucks.
Yes.
Or my life is awesome.
Yeah, dude. I think in many ways we are living in our future. Yeah. Time is the great amplifier. All it does is magnify. Yeah. And you don't necessarily need to be fully concerned right now with your current results, but more focused on your current trajectory.
Yeah, the inputs.
Yes. And if you feel good about that trajectory, and then you just keep building on that momentum, and you can extrapolate that timeline 10 years, 20 years from now, and you're like, hey, if I keep doing these things, then I have this knowing, this feeling inside of me that when I arrive at that future self, that I'm going to be really content. That's awesome. But I feel like most people, if they really think about the trajectory, it's a slow descent into chaos. And I agree. I do a lot of things today that are I'm not trying to win the marshmallow test of life, so to speak. It's not all delayed gratification, but there is a lot of that to it. There's a lot of understanding that your future you is watching you through memories. And what's the tape that they want to play back? Because you will inherit your future. You're going to foot the bill one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny to be able to play with time like that, I think. You know what I mean? Just to be able to look into the future. I mean, you don't even know what that really consists of yet. But then again, you can if you just act a certain way. Yeah. And it actually works. You know what I mean? It's funny to be in a place where there's something notable. You know what I mean? We're having this conversation because there's something meaningful to reflect on. And you get to that point, you go, oh my gosh, it actually works. Because every step leading up to that, you're wondering, oh, is the time spent just thinking, is the time spent working towards these unquantifiable characteristics actually worth it? Of course it is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's so easy to say that now when things, quote unquote, have worked out. Mm-hmm. But betting on yourself in that kind of way is one of the coolest forms of confidence. And then again, that comes from actually doing the thing, being inspired by your own version of showing up. And it's this system. It's so interesting.
Yeah. And I think that because there is this, whether people are constantly thinking about it or not, and I'd hope that more are starting to understand the importance of doing things now that will curate a future that you're happy to inherit and be in. But I think that is why people like you that have a strong, firm message of not letting people play small and calling that out, I think that's why it triggers so many, because you're poking at something very sensitive, which is you essentially saying in as many words and as many different vehicles that you deliver it through is, unless you figure your shit out now, you in 10 years is going to be worse. And that's going to suck. And that hurts people because they don't like... There's two kinds of people in this world. When they see somebody doing something that's impressive, they either choose inspiration and they say, fuck yeah. If Crew can do that, I could do something similar. Or there's another kind of person that blames and complains. Power follows the blame finger. They'll say something like, well, he's privileged. Or he's just a white dude, or he had wealthy parents, or I couldn't do that because of blah, 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 blah. Right. And power follows the blame finger. So like, be the person that gets inspired by these things. And if something actually does trigger you, if somebody's ever watched your message and been like, oh, this guy, like, it's actually an invitation to figure out exactly why. Because all you're trying to do is live in your truth with as much fire as you can do it, to try and help people to discover what theirs is so they can step into it as well. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if it was only through conversation, it would be one thing. And then social media, it bastardizes almost everything. Yeah. And it's so interesting. I think a part of the confidence of what I do and how I don't know, carry out my life, I get a lot of people's opinions towards me, I guess. But nobody's watching something actually analyzing me. They're using me as a mirror for themselves, right? And it's very hard to do, because if somebody says, oh, you're a piece of shit, I don't immediately just go, oh, well, they're just reflecting on their own self. And, you know, it takes a little bit of processing and thinking through, because enough people say, and you go, okay, what's going on here?
Right. Do they have a little bit of truth?
Right.
Yeah. That's the problem with being an analytical person too, right? An introspective person. You kind of start tripping over your own self-consciousness and being like, wait, is there some truth to this? And then you've got to really steelman your own positions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the honesty thing is a big deal, because, you know, the whole TikTok hate thing, I can look back at the video that I posted that people hate, and I can go, yeah, I mean, I could see how, if you wanted this to look bad, you could easily make this look bad. Okay. Yeah. That's what everyone did.
Yeah. Perception is reality.
Yeah. 100%. And if it had just reached the opposite side,
bingo, dude,
it would have been a million people going, dude, hell yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's so funny. It's luck of the draw. Yeah. Who got the video? Yeah. Enough people that freaking hate everything about not that message, but who was saying it, how I am, they're not going to like that anyways, like I mentioned before. And yeah, it takes a lot of honesty to say, okay, I know who I am, I know what I meant, I know what I said, and I'm not even going to defend myself, because who cares? You know what I mean? The people who are taking a message and turning it into an irrational narrative already, what am I going to plead my case to them?
No. It would never change their mind anyway.
No,
exactly. It's just wasted breath.
100%.
And this is the problem with the whole social media thing is unfortunately that is what the algorithm plays to. So like you said, it's a coin toss when you throw something out in the world. It's either going to land on quote unquote the right side, where people resonate with that message and it's inspirational, or the algorithm is going to feed it to the wrong side, and it's going to pull out a bunch of angry people, and they're going to gather because, man, the comment sections just love a poop flinging match, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where the chips fell on this one. And you're right, you don't need to defend your positions, because you were speaking your truth, and it's not your responsibility to micromanage how your truth makes other people feel. That's their stuff.
Yeah, and then it turns into all kinds of lies and plenty of other things, and I just go, all right. I mean, just like plenty of people have done to me, you know, they'll do a little video line by line, they pause, and then they talk about it. First of all, nobody understands sarcasm apparently. Yeah. Because that is a huge part of how I communicate. Yeah. People just don't get it. And so some of the biggest arguments against me were based on the most sarcastic parts of the video, which is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, it's people that don't have a real purpose within them. They have now found a cause. Perfect. Yeah. Now everyone hates this guy. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. Oh, this guy is, evil, and this guy's this and that. Yeah, dude. And now they have a purpose, because they have something to speak on. They have something to work towards. It's a pretty empty purpose, because it lasted, a few weeks. I would just go and post on TikTok, and I would just click post and close out the app immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would cover the top
because
I didn't want to see all the comments. I just I already know what they say.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
we're good.
Speaking of triggering people, you're quite outspoken against one of the cultural sacred cows, if you will, especially for young people, being a 24-year-old, alcohol and party culture. And one of your quotes when you were addressing this topic is, "To be lame in the eyes of somebody that I would never want to be like is nothing but an absolute success."
Yeah.
And as a 24-year-old that has never drank a drop of alcohol and chooses to reject party culture a little bit, how do you navigate the potential FOMO that comes with that, but also the just how abnormal that is in a modern culture?
Yeah, so I didn't go to college. That's a big part of it. I got the straight A's and all that kind of stuff, but I knew how heavy a certain environment can be. And I knew, coming out of high school, that I'm stubborn enough to where I will never give in to anything, but that's going to cause a real dynamic of loneliness, more so than if I was just by myself. Right now you have the contrast of everyone else being a certain way. So didn't go to college for that reason. Wanted to pursue my own things. I've known who I am for a really long time. The drinking thing is interesting because if you look at it closely enough, it's pretty obvious what it is. It's just people wanting to distract themselves from what's actually going on with them. It's the perfect means of doing that. It's also the perfect means of connection. You literally have to do not shit to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
If you just go out, everyone's drinking, everyone's on the same wavelength, sweet.
Right.
You know what's really hard to do is connect with people that have really great character and are amazing people. Because first of all, you have to be that way yourself if you're really going to connect with those people. And they're hard to find.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a very cheap means of a lot of different things. The way that I manage the FOMO aspect, I think people would imagine that for someone like myself that's just analytical, fact-based, very logical, all those kinds of things, that it would just be easy. Oh, these people, I don't want to be like them. Easy, I'm not going to act like them. Fine, I don't want anything to do with that. However, years ago when I'm driving Uber, just to make a ton of money I won't say a ton, to try to make a ton of money rather, to just save up and do the right thing. I mean, I was going Monday to Sunday every day, and I lived 2 minutes from a college campus. So I'm not in school, not doing the normal thing, building up the social media. I had been living my lifestyle for years and years up to this point. And I'm looking around and I'm just seeing people my age hanging out, having fun. Oh, this dude's walking down the sidewalk with some girl, and they're going to this restaurant, and it's 20 people, and they're having some party, and they're doing. And the feeling is, it's a movie moment, but it's your own movie moment. And it's not a good one, right? And it's just the pit in your stomach of, oh, I miss out on everything, all of the things I miss out on, right? And I just remember these moments where I would think so deeply into it that I would look to the future of right now. Say, I'm going to be talking about this one day.
Yeah.
Right. And I know I'm going to be reflecting on these moments, but it was just the, gripping my steering wheel, wanting to break the damn thing in half because I hate what's going on. I know that I have ideas. I know that I want to make an impact. I know that I do things differently than most people. And I know my environment doesn't give a shit. There's nothing to show for it. I'm just driving Uber. Who cares? Right. And that difference is a heavy one.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that keeps you going is having enough purpose built into that, having enough of a why behind it, and not in just kind of a cheap, find your why that people throw around. A real reason is the only thing that can propel you to be in those moments and then keep going.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's one notch ahead. It's not this easy, oh yeah, screw them. I don't want to be like them. It's, I hate right now. I hate this. But I know what comes of this. This is not a wonder. Every successful person you listen to, and not just money successful, I'm talking about real successful. any successful person you talk to talks about this moment. What am I going to do right now? Man, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, it's not these big moments. Oh, my video blew up and got 52 million. It's that day, right? I have my own little vision of the exact moment I'm talking about right now. But it's that moment of grabbing that freaking steering wheel and going, dude, I hate this so much, but I know, right? I know what comes of it. That's the FOMO. Right?
Yeah, dude. It's really cool because at that moment you're describing, there's a very distinct fork in the road, right? There's a very distinct like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be like the rest of them, right. Or like I'm gonna choose left when everybody's going right. But to your point, and I think this is what's really impressive in a sense as well, is that you actually knew the why. You actually had a vision to anchor to, because you're right. You know, there's that line, a man with a strong enough why can endure any how. So you were able to endure the how because you had the why. But how many young 20-somethings actually know the why? And I guess that's part of we used the word programming before. It's just kind of like you get kind of like scooped up in this thing that you do. Like you just go to school and you just go to college, and college is basically the high school experience with more drinking, and then you just get chewed out and spat into finance, and then you just do that. And then all of a sudden you're like 35 years old, 40 years old saying like, what the fuck just happened?
Well, I mean, it's because it's advertised as the why.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to find myself. I think that's the line, right? I'm going to find myself. And then when finding yourself is, here's your job, you know what I mean? And then you're placed into the lane and you have to stay into the lane. And then at least 8 hours of your day, right? You don't speak outside of the corporate vocab.
No.
You know what I mean? You're not sitting there at your desk going, what do I care about? It's just, oh, what do I have to get done? What do I need to check off the list? Yeah. Oh, this is me. That's right. I grew up and I kind of dissolved all the things that I really cared about. And yeah, you know, I don't want the water slide out of the top window of the house anymore. I just want to figure things out. I just want to make, you know, this much every month or every year. Yeah, that's it. This is me. I went to college and figured out what my little assignment was. This is me. And what this is not, by the way, is demonizing a job. It's demonizing throwing away what you actually care about.
Yes.
You can work a job and you can care about freaking BMX riding or something.
Yes.
You can care about something, but people say, oh, this doesn't make me money, so I'm going to throw this away. Well, your purpose, your why, is found in the things that you actually care about.
Yes.
You know, I've worked with a ton of different people, and there's always this conversation. What is your purpose? And then I can almost see through their brain like a window, and I can see them going, okay, well, what's the thing that I could eventually monetize and turn into my job?
Yeah.
I think, what do you, no. Don't say, what is something I care about that could be my job? No, what is something that I care about? There it is.
The end.
And stop there.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, so many people are trying to put a price tag on purpose, and I think that's kind of, again, what culture is sold. And it's not the path. There's so many people that can, and I agree with you, it is certainly not to speak down on a regular 9 to 5. It's just to acknowledge that if that becomes your whole sense of self and identity and worth, and this is what I do, and then even to the point where if somebody questions it, you get triggered because you know that they're like, oh shit, like I kind of got suckered into this. What do they call that? The sunk cost fallacy. You know, the sunk cost fallacy, the more you've sunk into something, the more you convince yourself that it's the right thing, because to acknowledge that it's not the right thing is so painful, because you're like, well, I've $50,000 in college debt and I've done this for 10 years. And if I'm brutally honest with myself, I fucking hate it. But what else am I going to do? This is the only thing that I've got.
Yeah. And then you have the skill set that comes along with that. Just as there's the skill set of communicating real confidence and good ideas and perspectives, you have the skill set of truly convincing yourself that what you just explained is the right thing.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. This is how it should be. I mean, the whole freaking fat culture stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, don't get in good shape. Just work to convince yourself that being in bad shape is good.
Exactly.
Let's do the real mental gymnastics here.
Have you heard of the inner citadel?
No.
So basically, when people can't get what they want, they teach themselves not to want it. So it's a beautiful example of the fat acceptance movement. Is these people, almost all of the people that are fat to the point that they've been suckered in by this messaging, have almost certainly tried to not be fat. They've probably tried a diet and tried exercise, and they weren't able to be successful for a myriad of reasons. So instead of doubling down and going harder and figuring it out and staying in the suck, they taught themselves not to want it by saying ridiculous things like health comes at any size, or fat loss is racist, or it's rooted in like the patriarchal oppression. Another very interesting...
It's true, man. It's true.
It's wild, dude. And one other thing on the fat acceptance things that just shows how that narrative collapses and is on such shaky ground is as soon as Ozempic and the GLP-1s entered the equation, the narrative vanished. You know, it vanished faster than people's decaying muscle mass when they're on these drugs, because it's not that people actually just needed to love themselves as they are. It's that they didn't want to do what was required to get to the place that they wanted to do them. They didn't like the options that they had. And now they have an option that makes it easier. And now they're all taking it. So your favorite fat influencer, your favorite body positivity influencer isn't going to be fat for very long.
Yeah.
As soon as skinny's on the table, people are going to take it. So it's like, it's just all this incentive stuff. But you're dead right. And what you were describing is the inner citadel. Is like, it's really uncomfortable for me to sit with the truth of like, I didn't get what I wanted. So instead of acknowledging that and reverse engineering it, and even potentially leaving a shitty relationship or leaving a career after 20 years to reinvent yourself, because you can do that at any fucking moment. You can do that. It's easier in some twisted way to convince myself that I didn't want it and I did it right. And now I'm just going to live in this like shadow existence.
Yeah, well, I think it's because any day of recognizing that, after all, is just a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's that same mindset of it's just today. I mean, it's just this week. I'll kind of get to it next week and that sort of thing. You know, time flies when you're having fun is a really big saying, but it also flies when you're throwing your life away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really scary thing. I mean, I don't even think a lot of people fully respond to fear. Because again, if you can't conceptualize your future self, you're not going to be afraid of your future self, and you'll outsource anything you don't want to deal with now to that future self. And then you get to that point and you hate it, and you just try and forget about it again. That's the real dynamic of the whole drinking and party culture thing. Oh, this is going to be so fun, and the adrenaline builds, then the next morning you're throwing up and you hate yourself. But you don't hate yourself enough to remember that at the start line of doing it again the next time. Memory is one of the biggest things I talk about with anybody I work with. I go, well, how good is your memory? And they say, well. I think a lot of people like to downplay their memory for whatever reason. People love to say they forget everything, which is stupid as hell to do. Because if you just told yourself that you have great memory, you're going to remember things way better. Right? You're just reaffirming that consistently.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Someone will tell me something, I go, I'm going to remember this. And then the next time they talk to me, I'm going to bring up the small detail. And then they say, oh, you remember it? I say, yeah, my memory is great.
Memory's a skill.
Love doing that because it actually works. And when it comes to purpose, everybody, you know, when they're on let's say a coaching call with me, they can talk about their purpose and what's important to them and what they care about and what their plan's going to be and what they want their lifestyle to look like, all these great things. Recite it the next morning at 5 a.m. when it's time to do their thing. What? You know, they can't even open their eyes, never mind recite what's important to them. And so this is why I emphasize the memory so much. I go, well, you got to have a good enough memory so that you can actually access what you care about in the moments when you least want to act on what you care about.
That's right.
That is a real skill. And I'm glad you say skill, because people look at having good memory. They look at confidence. They look at self-respect. All of these things as some people just have it. And I don't have that. I'm not confident.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just curl up in the ball.
It's sad, man, because it gives people, it takes them off the hook. You know, it takes them off the hook. They say, well, you know, he just has it. I didn't have that. I don't have it. Yeah. Well, here's a reality check for you. Like, I feel confident now. I was not confident for the first 20-something years of my life. I was not confident. I was desperately unconfident. Yeah. I even did things professionally to try and mask my insecurity and prove to the world that I was confident in these shiny objects that never worked, because it was all fake. It was fake. I've only become confident because it's a skill. And because, to your point, it's evidence-based, now I've got an undeniable stack of proof that I'm the kind of person that does what I say, and I say what I mean, and that naturally builds confidence, as well as physical health and all of that stuff. But you can really become anything that you think is a skill if you're willing to put the time in and work for it. But as soon as you decide that you're just magically bestowed by the gods or something, and you didn't get that, hand, then you've screwed the pooch.
Yeah, it's a rough landing place. And again, it's always comfortable in the moment to just, it's not for me. I mean, literally yesterday, I was saying I wanted that landing place with the jiu-jitsu thing. Yeah, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
Too bad.
it's that the voice of the lower self that's in all of us, like depicted as the angel and devil on your shoulder, if you will, like this higher self versus this lower self, this tug of war. And it's the resistance. Stephen Pressfield talks about resistance a lot. And like resistance, the more you feel it, the more you're supposed to lean into it. So like when you recognize that yesterday, it sounds like when you were driving there, that voice of resistance picked up. I was like, you're never actually really going to get in a fight. You don't need to do this. You've got a bunch of other shit you're working on. And then that other part of you was like, oh, because that voice is there, that's all the more reason that I need to do this, because it's not the easy thing right now. It's like the hard right thing to do. And again, disproving that voice. And Joseph Campbell's famous line that the cave you fear to enter has the treasure you seek the most. Like, that's so good, man. It's so poetic and it's so true. Like, fear is the compass. Fear isn't the thing to run away from. Fear is the thing to lean into and say, that thing scares the shit out of me. Like talking to my camera, or asking the girl out, or going to the gym. It scares the living shit out of me. Two people. Okay, it's scary, not going to do it. Or the second kind of particular savage, which is, that scares the shit out of me. Whew, let's go do that thing.
Yeah, and the deep breath. I mean, it's an experience to do that kind of thing. I mean, it is super overwhelming. And, yesterday, I was thinking about this. I go, wow, it's kind of a luxury to have done all of this work on myself to get to the point where I'm still struggling with this idea of, oh, man, I don't want to do the thing, but I got to do the thing. Because I'm pretty well equipped for this kind of thing, and I really don't want to do it. And I'm sitting here, kind of the pit in my stomach. What would it be like to not have spent all these years working through these ideas? I'd turn the car around. That is the difference, right? You don't become immune to the feelings. No. You become ridiculously aware of the feelings. And that, again, it's not flashy. You can't quantify it. You're not going to be driving down the street and says, oh, there's that guy who can do the right thing for himself all the time. That is not easily communicated, but it's one of the most valuable things you can have. And, I'm grateful for that. And it's not just the hard times make you into a better version of yourself. Because I think people have heard that sort of thing too much. Yeah. And they just go, yeah, I don't want a hard time. Yeah. I don't want a better version of myself, whatever. Yeah. And fair enough. Because when something is repeated over and over and over again, it just becomes cliche, and people don't connect with cliche very well. That's why, you can't avoid it all the time, but I'm kind of repelled by things that are said too much. And in my content, I then take on the responsibility of, I have to say something new. Yeah. That no one's ever heard before. And then a recent, train of thinking is, well, it's not about saying something new. It's about saying something maybe semi-new, maybe in a little bit of a different way, but who is it coming from? That is a big emphasis of mine now, because I think social media-wise, people see me, oh, this is the running guy, it's the ice bath guy, whatever. People who know me would think so differently than maybe what my Instagram looks like. Right. But my consistency mindset is, okay, well, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to be in this kind of serious realm of my life, which is very accurate to the part of my day I'm depicting in my content. But then what about everything else? If people don't know who I am, why would they care about this super tight, innovative message that I'm trying to put out there? It doesn't matter. Right? And so I think I've just been thinking about it so much recently, how you actually put yourself out there. And it's something I'm always working on. That's why I like a podcast. Someone listens to this, they're going to get a lot better of an idea of who I am than one of my videos where I'm running talking about something. No doubt. And I love those videos. I love sitting down and writing and going, how can I pull together 10 minutes of what I want to say and just tighten it so far to just a minute that someone can walk away with. I love the art of that. But again, who the hell is it coming from? Oh, it's this robot that just runs every single day. And there it goes. You know, the value of what I'm saying isn't held because nobody can see through who's actually saying it. So, you know, kind of a little off topic there, but I'm so interested by the perception versus the intent.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a really important thing to be leaning into, not just because, speaking of cliches, authenticity is key. It's kind of like how you really do connect with people, but I think it's going to be some kind of like making yourself unAIable, chat GPT proof, which is we're entering into a rapidly changing information landscape where the amalgamation of all of the best shit that's ever been said from philosophers and people can be, you know, delivered to you at the text prompt, but it's not a human. Yeah. Warts and all, like flaws and all. And I think it's really, really important to have as much of the holistic totality of expression of who you are online, which is like, yeah, those really condensed, squoze down, poignant thoughts in 60-minute videos.
Yeah.
But it's just, that's like a tiny amalgamation of who you are. You know, there's so much more. And I think that's probably what people are going to start to crave even more and more now as we outsource more to our phones, is like, I believe in this human, like all this shit that they do. And are you trying to like lean into just more like YouTube and obviously podcasts like that to convey more of that message?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I just think long form.
Yeah.
I mean, who really thinks in a 30-second spurt?
Dude,
nobody. And I'm obsessed with these things when it comes down to it, because I've been battling short form content since the day I started it. And it is actually conflicting for me, because I go, this isn't how I think, but I want to do well so enough people can come across what I think. And how do you win at this? Well, you definitely don't start with being genuine and authentic as a form of getting engagement. Plenty of people do it very well, right? You don't start with, how am I going to make the biggest impact possible and bring the most value to anybody that sees what I'm putting out there. That is the worst way to get really good engagement on social media. And what's been my approach since day one? I want to bring the most value and I want to have the biggest impact. Man, I did not gain a following because of being good at social media.
Yeah.
I'm very, very bad at short form content. I hate it. I'm really not good at it. I'm not tactical. If I'm making a video, it's so recent that I've thought, oh, I need a good hook at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, I need to be creative. I hate all of that shit. And I demonized the idea of it for a while. And then I went, well, even the best author in the world has to have a good title to their book if anyone's actually going to read the book. Right? And now I'm not seeing short form content as, oh, this is going to be the home of my ideas and the library of all the perspectives that have made me who I am. It's actually, this is going to be an advertisement of who I am as a person, for real, or as close to real as you can get. I probably say plenty of things that shouldn't go on Instagram, but this is an advertisement of the person. And then if you want the ideas, go watch the YouTube videos, go listen to the podcast, go listen to the actual long form ideas, because that's how my ideas exist. I've found it so freeing. And this is a very, very recent decision or organization of how I'm doing this, because I've posted the running videos as consistently as I've done the running since I started since I started posting. I think I took a week off one time just to do it. But as of recent, I might do 1 or 2 a week. Right, because the fatigue of people seeing it, nobody's even listening to what I'm saying anymore for the most part, because just, oh yeah, here's this guy saying some shit, whatever. And it's not a proper use of those ideas. And it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Because this is the stuff that I like to do. I started my podcast doing that. Again, it's another skill.
Yeah.
I'm tightening the sit down and just talk to maybe a bunch of people, or what it really feels like, just a camera lens
Yeah.
for 30 minutes about something I care about, while not turning it into a speech, while being authentic, while also being funny, how I would talk to a person. Still a camera, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's another skill, but I'm so excited about it because it actually fits, right? It actually aligns, and it's not going to be a short form content battle anymore.
Yeah.
The short form content is going to be ideas that can exist in short form.
Yeah, I like that, man.
And I'm excited about it.
Well, it kind of sounds like it's that level of mastery that you've got to where the container of discipline to do the thing over long enough timeline to like pressure test what's working, but now a higher level of mastery, which is to kind of free yourself from the rules that you've even established. That's like a really organic form. It's that running uphill versus running downhill thing again. There was a lot of running uphill and it was valuable. But now you're like, what if we broke some of the rules that I've already applied and run downhill a little bit more and have more fun and do things that feel a little bit more organic and authentic, dare I say, which is the message anyway. Like, why force it? Why make it harder than it needs to be? Why try and squeeze things into something that they don't quite fit and just do the thing that feels a bit more natural?
This is such a good topic because it kind of attacks me, because I mean, there are plenty of comforts built into the robotic consistency of some of the things I do. Now, it's always a hard one, right? Because I could say, oh, well, the eating a certain way all the time, you know, maybe that's just too tight of a container, or never drinking, or never not waking up at 5 a.m. Maybe these containers are too much. And there's such a deep rabbit hole on this one, because the food, for example, I don't want junk food. I don't want the highly processed bullshit. I'm actually not attracted to that. And I think most folks have a really hard time understanding what that's like, because people struggle with food big time. Mm-hmm. It's a very reasonable one too. But I say, yeah, I never have a cheat meal. People go, never? I'm going, yeah, but it's because I don't actually want to do that. You know, and your reward systems change their programming over time to be attracted to what's actually healthy. You know, and I'll have people say, well, you know, you got to break the rules, because like you're saying, that is actually a further mastery of being a disciplined person, is being able to walk outside the bounds and then bring yourself back. I also think there's a responsibility to know which categories of your life you should do that in and which ones you shouldn't.
Yes.
The alcohol one, for example. I had a friend of mine, he's going, dude, if you find yourself in, he said Galway, Ireland or something with this, and he tried to come up with the actor's name.
Like, drink the Guinness.
Yeah, he literally said that.
Yeah.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I get on kind of my high horse. I go, well, who paints the scene in that moment? How about this actor in Ireland gets on my level and doesn't drink while we sit there and have the coolest conversation ever? You know, and so it is a tricky one, because then you just go outside the bounds of everything and then you're back at square one. But it's so tough. And I battled with the idea. I go, well, putting the post out there every day, it's a part of the showing up, because then people can see how consistently I'm showing up, and I build all this principle into it. No one cares. You know what I mean? It's Instagram. I don't know if anybody has said, oh, dude, you know, you're not posting every day. I thought you would, you know, you fell off and that kind of thing, because people don't really see it that way. So trying to be honest and truthful and preserve my energy is actually very important in terms of the responsibility of going outside of the bounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's when it gets really creative. That's when it's fun.
Yeah, that's when it's fun. New levels, new devils, if you will. Like, there's always a new, like, you just, I don't know. You'll apply this to whatever you end up doing in the future. There's just going to come a new level where you've got to rethink things and break the box and build it again. And it's fun. It's fun to do, man. And I want to switch gears slightly for the last little bit of this conversation, because I think this is very important. And I've, disclaimer, been out of the dating pool for a very long time. But you always hear, like, young people are trying to find their partner. Dating culture is fucked. It's messed. You know, the dating apps, the yada yada. And I think you add an interesting element to this as well, because because you just hold very steadfast in who you are as well. And I think a lot of people will sacrifice that sometimes in the quest to meet a partner. They might betray their own truth because they're trying to appease the other person or look good in their eyes. So what do you think in general about, number one, kind of just really, what would you say to someone that's really trying to stand in the full truth and totality of who they are whilst they try and find a partner? And what's it like out there in the wild, wild west of the modern dating world?
Man, that's a tough one, because there's a part of being stubborn, actually, that's important to preserving the full self. There's also compromise, but then compromise that's ridiculous also just gets built into this term of compromise. That people will say it as if it's a nice thing, but if you're compromising too far, then you're losing a part of yourself.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, because that's got to be one of the most compelling forms of changing something about yourself, right? Or changing your personality or how other people perceive you. It's going to be the dating realm. Everybody wants someone, right? Everybody wants to be in a good relationship.
Yeah.
And like you said, people will throw it away just to have that. People think that being in a relationship is what matters. It's how you get into a relationship, right? It's how you preserve yourself while you're in the relationship. People think any kind of outcome is the prize. It's how you get to certain outcomes. So if you want to make a bunch of money, you could start an incredible business that has amazing impact, or you could rob a bank. You might make $1 million both time, but on one hand, you're going to have a life full of purpose. On the other, probably going to jail, right? And so you see that, oh, being in a relationship is great. I need that, right? And people will take something in the moment over nothing right now and what I really want later on. And I've always been very, very adamant about, I will not settle for just something right now, right? I will always be willing to have nothing over meh.
Yeah.
It just, you can't, because if you're speaking about it logically, I mean, if you're going to exist with another person for the rest of your life, you might want to be pretty careful.
It's one of the biggest decisions you can make, dude. Honestly, yeah. The life partner is potentially, it's got to be up there with top 3 most important decisions you'll ever make in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And God, if the dating and getting to know somebody isn't the biggest version of, oh, what's wrong with me ever, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Right. Because that'll make you question everything. Single thing you do. Right. And I mean, it's tough for someone like myself. Except now I actually have a girlfriend, which I'm stoked about.
Oh, right and, on, man.
Yeah, that's been a huge win of the past couple months. Getting to know my girlfriend, she is very not problematic in any way. She also eats beef and rice and lifts every day and wakes up at 5 and runs every day and everything. So it's kind of a ridiculous match, if you will. But it has to be 2 confident people. Has to be. Because if she were to be threatened by me, just trying to do things well, trying to be successful or trying to know myself or trying to be really healthy, which a lot of people do get threatened by that.
Big time.
Then I would take her response to that threat as, oh, what's wrong with me? And then I'd be questioning myself, and then it's going to zap my confidence.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I don't even know that that's coming from her being threatened. And a lot of people have mentioned that to me in the past, in getting to know somebody, and then they're afraid, or they can't commit to something. And I'm going, what is the deal with people not being able to just exist in a relationship? Because I've been working on my damn self for all this time. It starts to feel a little selfish eventually. I want to work with somebody. I want to build a relationship. It's not a finish line at all. It's just a brand new opportunity to have an abundance of, I'm going to keep working on something, building something, more purpose.
Yes.
how can nobody be attracted to this, right? And then I had a couple of friends bring up to me, they said, you know, have you ever considered that somebody might just be intimidated by you? And I'm going, no, I mean, I'm on their team. What are you talking about? And they go, yeah, but you are just a reflection of them. Like I would always talk about with, you know, the social media comments and all this kind of stuff. It is such a crazy thing to try and navigate. And I mean, when you do so much work on yourself, when you try and have a level of fluency, you know, emotionally and mentally, and just knowing how to navigate problems, talk through things, you come across a lot of people that are not equipped to do that at all. And then you go, God, I feel like I'm a problem, but I also know that these things that I'm trying to refine my ability in are positive.
Yeah, right.
Why can nobody just explain what they think? You know, why do people ghost people and do all this stuff? That is just so common. And it's just the crux of trying to be a really good person, is that doesn't mean everyone else around you is going to be that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it is such a difficult thing to navigate because, you know, up until you meet the right person, you think it's not going to happen. And it's just a pure faith-based thing, just as it is doing all of the behaviors and actions that turn you into the person that you want to be. You're not them yet.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm trying to, you know, attract the right person. What the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? You're just looking everywhere going, okay, you know, where's she at?
Is she at?
Right. And, man, I mean, it's a shame that people throw away the value of a relationship so easily. All the hookup culture stuff, it's just an instant gratification. It's a cheapening of humans.
Yeah.
And then it's a practice of, oh, I can just get out of this whenever I want. Weakens the bond between anyone you're going to meet in the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
It really is a sad thing. And it all comes from a place of everybody wants to have something or someone right now.
Yeah.
Which nobody doesn't resonate with that.
No, dude.
But I mean, you have to do a lot of work to preserve the value of yourself.
Yeah.
In today's world.
Agreed, man. Agreed. It's I think you're right. You know, and a lot of people settle, and I think if it's not a fuck yeah, it's a hell no when it comes to relationship.
Yeah,
you know that because like you said, I mean, really, why are you doing all of this work on yourself? It's because it feels good and it allows you to live the life that you want. But ultimately, you want to then give that away and share it with someone, and hopefully in the future even give that gift. Guys, I think the greatest gift you can give to your future children is to work on yourself. The greatest gift you can give to the world is to work. It's actually the only thing you can really give to the world is to work on yourself, and a partner too. So if you were doing all of that and then you let the loneliness win and then you settled and it sabotages all that, like what was it worth it? So you've got to be steadfast. You got to hold on and really have those healthy boundaries, and eventually you'll find your, you know, steak and rice eating, weightlifting, running girl. Like they're out there. People are out there. People are doing this, but don't settle. Don't settle in life. Don't settle in business. Don't settle for your health. Don't settle. Settling is not what we're here to do. You know, it's just not.
No. I mean, it's something I've thought about so much, the relationship, because you can control yourself and then you can never control who's around you. You can't control the person that you eventually meet, and maybe they are the right person and that's great. And then maybe they're not. And in that moment, you realize, is this the wrong person? Or am I being too selfish and I'm not willing to compromise? Right? And when you're not with someone, in my case, right, you have a checklist. Oh, I want them to be just like this. I want them to look this way. I want them to have all of these characteristics. And then you meet someone, and every good person runs into this. You can't hold the checklist anymore. And that's the real difficulty of it. Because it's not that you're just throwing away yourself. You can't throw them away because there's one thing missing on the list. You go, well, now this is a person. Right? When I talk to somebody, anybody, I look at them as who they are right now and their whole life of what led up to being that way. And I go, oh my gosh, you know, this person, their attitude or the way they are right now, maybe it's great, maybe it's a negative thing. It's all a culmination of the first day they jumped into this earth and everything that's happened to them up to that point. They have plenty of responsibility within that too. So if someone's an asshole, I have no problem telling them that. But there's a lot that goes on in someone's life to lead up to today. And that is the hardest part that I have faced, because you know, when you feel good about yourself, you wanna save the other person.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yeah.
It's not your responsibility, but you know, you're all picky and harsh and everything, and then you have a person in front of you. It's not a hypothetical anymore. You go, oh dang.
Yeah. That's real.
Now I have to take care of this.
Yeah,
right?
wow. Yeah, it's a great way to up the stakes, and I think it's what it's all for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's really what makes it enriches life so much, with so much more meaning. We've talked a lot about purpose. Like sharing it with another person is just, it's almost like, you know, having the right relationship elevates the bar, and then having children elevates the bar on the scope of the emotions you can feel. I feel like without the relationship, you can have like 0 to 10 level of happiness, and then you get the relationship and you see that there's like there's a level 15 now when you share it with someone, and then you have kids and you say, oh, there's a level 20. And it's just like it's just really cool. It's like that's what it's all about. It's about sharing these things, it's about sharing these conversations, it's about sharing life with other people. I mean,
you've never had something fun, funny, amazing happen to you, and the first thing you don't want to go tell someone.
Right, exactly.
You always want to go tell somebody about it. If I see anything, I almost immediately grab my phone and go, who can I call and tell this story? You know, or someone says something crazy, you go, oh my God, I have to remember this, because it feels wrong for it to just sit within you. It has to go somewhere else. You know, and I think, like you said, that's the biggest value of conversation. That's the biggest value of, I mean, putting stuff out there, you know, putting the ideas out there. And at first, whether it's social media or you know, starting a podcast or anything like that, you're kind of talking to nobody. But then eventually you actually are talking to someone, and someone is on the other side of the screen, or you know, they're on the other side of the headphones and they're listening and going, oh wow, and they're thinking about their life.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't know anybody else. It could be thousands of people. They don't know anyone else's story except their own, and they're taking that in. They're digesting that. They're trying to learn lessons from it. Right. And that's the real cool thing about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Heck yeah, dude. Last one from me, a light one to finish with. What makes you happy, and what is happiness to you?
Happiness, I think, is a feeling that can be very present or pretty far away at any given point, regardless of your circumstances. I think it's a response, actually, because people will talk about the difference between happiness and true joy and whatnot. I am a person that has no problem indulging in the honest feeling at any given point. If I'm frustrated, I will very much say that that's the case. You know, if I hate everybody, oh, this sucks, this is stupid, I'm actually fine to do that, because the general scope, the general theme of my life is pure optimism. And there's a very strong piece in that, which allows me to be flexible in my emotions. Right. But happiness, I think it comes from so many different places. I've started to find it in smaller and smaller things, because I think what people do, they expose themselves to a very strong stimulus of, you know, dopamine and all these kinds of things. And then the search is, how can I find greater and greater forms of enjoyment, instead of how can I find enjoyment in smaller and smaller things, right? So I made a video. I can't even remember if I posted it or not, to be honest, but my roommate and I were eating an orange. We just love oranges right now, and he had an easy time peeling the orange, and he was just stoked about it. And then we ate the orange, and it was so good, and we were just laughing and just, you know, joking around and running around the kitchen or whatever. And I thought, man, the ability to have that much enjoyment in smaller and smaller experiences is actually, that's the real value. Because you'll find people that they're actually at the peak of, they've found maybe the absolute epitome of what you can enjoy, right? The people that do the whole hookup culture thing. Well, they've done it with everybody. Now what? What's next? Oh, you've actually reached the limit. You've actually reached the limit of
congratulations
enjoyment. Yeah. Now what?
Now what?
Now you got to work your way back down.
Yeah, dude.
Because there's not another thing. I also made a video about that. I said, what, are you going to start banging aliens? You know what I mean?
Who knows? It might get weird out here soon enough.
Yeah. But, you know, the happiness is in the small things.
It is, man.
And it's not to be a cliche, because, you know, we talked about how I feel about that. But finding that appreciation in the tiniest details, that's a big deal to me.
Yeah. I mean, certain cliches are true.
It's true.
Because they are.
That's
why.
why.
And it is like, you know, there's the best things in life are usually right in front of you if you're present enough to enjoy and have like a blissful orgasmic experience with reality because you ate a bloody orange, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't always have to be, you know, peak experiences and going to festivals and driving fancy cars. Like, if you enjoy that too. But yeah, try and find the special in what otherwise would be mundane. And I think a lot of that is just presence, man. It's just being with the moment that you're in. It can make the ordinary moments feel really special, and it can make the extraordinary moments just like just talking about memory, like they'll be lifelong memories forever. So
yeah. I mean, you don't have to pretend to be any way ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be pissed out of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you can be in your house alone, you can be yelling at stuff. Yeah. Like, I hate this shit. But that's going to allow you to actually be present and being happy the next time you are. I think that is the real experience, because people try and be too pretty.
Yeah.
And they try and like, package. Yeah.
Positive vibes only. No, get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here.
Like, I like your frame of like long-term optimism and short-term. Yeah, it's okay to be fucking triggered at some shit. It's like this traffic is bullshit. Like, be a human. Like, 100%. It's ups and downs. But over the long term, trajectory-wise, the world belongs to optimists, man. I fully believe that. And I think you're doing an incredible job of just calling people into that. It's really refreshing, man, especially given your age at 24 for the younger generation. They need more people calling them into something more. And I think it's really awesome what you're doing. So thanks for coming out and sharing this with us.
Thank you so much, man. This was a great time, honestly.
Yeah. Where can people go to keep up and follow along?
Crew Mahoney on just about everything. So CRUMAHONEY. Everyone thinks it's Crew Mahoney.
Yeah.
It is not. It's
but that could be a new business in the future. Hey, Crew Mahoney. Let's go. I'd eat that shit.
That might be it. A little raw, unfiltered.
Amazing,
Austin,
dude.
Texas based. But yeah, Crew Mahoney podcast on Spotify. Just made a new YouTube for that. But yeah, just my name for all my YouTube, TikTok, Instagram.
Excellent. Let's go drink some milk, eat some steaks, and lift some weights.
Let's run it.
How does that sound?
Hell yeah.
All right, you lot. We'll see you next week. Stay radical. Peace. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.